Hello everybody, so today I am at a place called Abbey. I don't know how it's pronounced, I think it's something along those lines. And Yorkshire sounds quite French actually, so it's probably part of the Norman conquest, possibly William the Conqueror, I'm not sure. I'll have to look at the history at some point, but I found myself here today and already there's something very interesting behind me. So what we've got here is an ancient wall, an ancient house behind it. And on either corner, there's the dragon or griffin. I think it could be a griffin at either side. And then here we have where the old springs used to be. So you can see a clear arch on either side. But directly in line, the house is still utilising, it looks like, the spring system with the fountain here. So directly, it's all in lines, symmetry. And the abbey is just over here. Some ancient trees around here as well in the grounds. Absolutely massive. What a place. So this is the well that we found here on the ruins, or just outside the ruins. So the ruins are just here where I was before the wall was there. This is a beautiful well, stunning water. Almost certain it's pure spring water. I've tried and it tastes absolutely beautiful. So what we've got, something very interesting we found here. So the well that we've just been at, just what I showed you before, is just behind this tree. As you can see, the second tree is just there, directly in line with the channel here that runs through the temple, through the abbey, but it's been blocked off purposely. Look at that, it would have flowed right through the temple. It would have flown through this structure and then into the main abbey. All to do with water, I keep saying all to do with water. And it would have flowed through this section here and into the main section of the temple. And we're going to have a little wander around there, see what we can find. What a beautiful place this is though. And it's nice that just a few donations, I think £2 or £3 keeps it intact, but not exactly energised as it was in the original time where the water was flowing through. This is what they've stopped on purpose, that we need to get back to. It won't be difficult to reinstate the water to a temple like this, but we need the consciousness to reach a certain level to even acknowledge this. Now this place is blowing my mind how big it is, and it just shows how important this site was. I thought it was going to be a lot smaller than this, but this is a true temple. People would have gathered here with the water, with the stone, with the nature, with the elements, and prayed over the water. You know, the women gathering together and the men, but the feminine lineages were very connected to the water and made offerings and everything to the waters. But yeah, there would have been multi-functions to these places. Obviously electromagnetic energy possibly too, or almost definitely, because of the way the structure's laid out and the cymatics patterns and everything like that. It's a healing chamber, it's a healing temple, and because it's merged with nature and not taken over nature, then it's a true original temple, likely. And yeah, it's not the spring. It would at one point would have been flowing through the temple and not, it wouldn't have blocked the spring like some built over them. So now we're nearing the other side of the abbey. The water flow, the line of the water is where that archway is there. Then it flows here or it did flow, sorry, underneath here, and then this is the end of the abbey, but then it would have obviously carried on. Don't know where it's gone from here, but obviously underneath that ground. So obviously this abbey had an original function, it had the original structure underneath all of this, but over time different civilisations and people have built and renovated the structure, so it's hard to know what is original and what is just been added on after. But in regards to it being an intact abbey and doesn't fall under the ownership of National Trust, it's actually private. Very impressive. Very impressive. What a place. It's the largest abbey, the best abbey I've ever been to. And I like to call them temples, not abbeys. I've got my staff with me today. My hazel wand I take when I'm looking for special sites, earth energy and springs. I recommend everybody who loves sites like this get a staff. All the pilgrims used to have a staff. This is on the way of St James, I think, as well, because it has the scallop shell logos. The scallop shells represent the pilgrim route of St James. Well, yeah, it's been a brilliant place. I didn't even know this was here until my friend Amy told me about this. What a place. Well, welcome to part 2 of this video, and I'm so excited today because I'm in a place that I've wanted to explore properly for a long time. So this is Lancaster, the historic city. So I'm making my way up to the Lune Aqueduct to start this walk. Then I'll be showing you the canal, showing you the aqueduct itself, and then we're going to go in search for lost springs, current springs, see what we can find. We'll go to the castle, then we're going to go to Williamson Park, which I've seen the pictures and videos of other people that have been there. Looks like a very prevalent place for former ancient springs. Very similar to Preston and Avonham Park, which I've done a video before, which is a huge spring network park in Preston. And the thing is that Lancaster is directly connected to Preston on the ley lines, and the canal joins Preston and Lancaster, the Lancaster Canal. So in my opinion, Lancaster and Preston are twin cities. So very interesting, excited for today. So this is the bottom of the aqueduct. Absolutely huge structure that goes across the River Lune. Very similar to the ones in Preston as well, which used to also be aqueducts, now turned into dual carriageways and roads. We've got a little bit of the aqueduct here, just on display. This is the design of the aqueduct itself. I'll show you when I get back up. So this is it, the canal on top of the Lune Aqueduct. And this is what I mean by the stonework. Each individual one is identical. It's incredible. The narrative, 250 years old apparently, the canals. The mainstream narrative is that the canal network is 250 years old. Now, the horse and cart civilization building the canal network and all these structures to precision to dig the whole country's canal network. And then, for example, in Berwick-upon-Tweed in Northumberland, and you've got the canals in Holland, they are cymatics, they are perfection. Star forts, or so-called star forts, is the narrative. They can only be viewed from above, and from above you can see that they are perfect star formations. Now, back then they didn't have this technology to view things like this from above. Why would they do that if it was just for industry or just for warfare? It's nonsense. But the canals nowadays are serving a very important purpose for nature. We've got herons, cormorants, kingfishers, otters, water voles. It's serving a very important habitat. 90% loss of wildflower meadows, 90% loss of wetlands since the 30s. The canals are making up for that. Now, to be honest, I don't know the original function of the canals. I do know that the canals at times disturbed the water table when they were built. So they are not natural, but they've turned into a very important wildlife habitat. But I really do feel that even now they build cables underneath the canals, and I believe that because of the electromagnetic grid that we used to have, there was so much power it was producing, too much in my opinion, it got too far technologically advanced, that we needed a huge network to cool the electric cables and wires or whatever they used. So possibly the canals were used as a form of diamagnetism to the magnetism. It's such a beautiful canal, it's the Lancaster Canal. Starts off at Preston and goes all the way up to Kendal. So here we've got these huge pillars. Directly in line with the structure is this massive obelisk with so many different sculptures on it. That will be definitely marking the waterways, certainly. So it's meant to be Queen Victoria, 1837 to 1901, I think it says. Structures like this would have been huge fountains like we see in cities like Rome. We see incredible structures like that with water coming out all over the realm. We see these, but now it's simply just a statue and nothing more, an obelisk. So this is Lancaster Castle. It was an active prison up until 2012. So that would have kept the energy so negative, because this will be on powerful ley lines, being a castle. And funnily enough, negative things such as prisons are always placed on ley lines, but you get the opposite as well. Sometimes you get incredible places like arts places, crafts places, very special artistic places also appear on ley lines. So you get the negative, but you also get the positive, because both are charged on a ley line and amplified. And this is why when you control the leys, the energy of the earth and the realm and the consciousness, things are put on the ley lines, changed for what the original function was, and then manipulated, distorted. Completely different brickwork on each of these. That's a very dark, that's a very light. And this is the spring, the old spring. Look at that, how ancient that is. Please do not touch, it says. Nothing flowing now, but as I always see, you see the grids, the markers. This is where the underground water is flowing. Keep an eye out for these all mark waterways. But let's not forget that something even worse than this being a prison happened here. This is famous for being the places where the witches were burnt and tortured. Now that would destroy the energy of the ley lines. And I suppose that now nothing happens here anymore. It's beginning to heal once more. I'm going to go into this exhibition here to see about the witches. I find it mad here that apparently the last Witchcraft Act remained in place until 1951. The last conviction was Helen Duncan in 1944, 1 year before the Second World War ended. That is crazy. And don't forget that the witches were herbalists connected to the land, the cycles of the moon, and the system didn't want that. Don't forget that the system doesn't want that now. So this is what happened. You know, they were very connected to the magic of the earth, to the cycles of the seasons and the stars, like our original ancestors were, and that was trying to be phased out. And this is why, part of the reason why this happened, but I'm not very knowledgeable as to what exactly happened in these events, who these people were, but a lot of the witches were such connected to the land, to herbs, to cycles of the season, like I say, to the land itself, to the truth, really. This map is, I've used this before to study the area. It's an old map of Lancashire and Cumbria, I think, as well. But on this map, you can see we've got Martin Mere here, near where I'm from. This is the largest lake in the country. And then you've got Leyland, which is the land of Leys. We've got where I'm from, Penwitham here. And then, I mean, you've got another lake here, which was at the other side of the River Ribble, which was called La Bellissima by the Romans, which means the beautiful river. And it's just so incredible looking at these old maps. But yeah, I think there's a huge wetland here as well. Obviously, there's another big, massive lake here. Wow. Just found, I nearly missed this, on the side of the main road. There's a little chapel. Chapels always have springs either at the side covered up, or sometimes they're actually flowing inside of the structure still, as it should be, like St Cleathers in Cornwall is a great example of that. Don't forget, the springs always came before these chapels. The side of the road next to the grammar school, an old spring as well, been shut off. There's not even a pipe in it anymore. Behind me is the Ashton Memorial. Now this structure is exactly the type of architecture that so-called Tartarian buildings are designed like. And this, if you wouldn't know that it was built, or apparently built in 1907, you would think that it was a Tartarian building. Well, this is what's confusing, right? Because obviously we have a lot of talk, myself included, that our ancestors in the 1800s and early 1900s could not have built the structures with a horse and cart civilization like we see here. But you can't really lie about this being built in 1907, because there's got to be people that remember this being built. What's even more mind-blowing is that this was built in a span of 2 years. Started in 1907 construction, finished in 1909. I'm sorry, but we couldn't build structures like this in 10-20 years time today. We take about 4 or 5 years just to build a little road or a little wall. You have a cup of tea breaks every minute, all these health and safety regulations. The builders nowadays couldn't even dream of building something like this. So 2 years time, in 1907, when the world was not even in a stable place, but yet they've produced a structure like this. Anybody has any suggestions as to what you think happened here, then please comment your opinion. What I'm going to show you now is something just as interesting. This building is built around the springs and has a focal point of water as its main priority. Not even just the structure itself, look at the statues and the designs all over the structure. I think that's a copper dome with the cupola on top. Look at that. Look at the steps coming down to it in the face of some sort of god, perhaps, just below where I'm going to show you where the spring used to be. This is it. Behind these two pillars, we've got an old pipe there. They would have flowed into there. You see the little drain on top. I mean, there's loads of water in it right now, but I think that's because of how much rain we've had. But it's been turned off. Here we have the symbol of Lancaster. I think it's the 2 griffins. We get around the side of the structure. We've got a lion. Water should be coming out here and filling this, but it isn't. It's been shut off. I mean, look at that for a view from here. One of my favourite places. You've got Morecambe Bay. You can see the River Loon. The castle's just behind these trees here. We've got Silverdale over there, Arnside. We've got Ulverston, the Lake District. 2 years, everybody. The narrative. Tell you what, if we could build structures like this in 1907, how far downhill have we got as a building society? Mad. I tell you what, we've either gone downhill or they're hiding the truth of how this was built. Right here we've got Lancaster Butterfly House on the right. Right, so this is very interesting. We've got the main monument there. Another spring house. This is another spring house. This park will be littered with springs. I mean, just look at that building though. So it's a shame because I've not actually found anywhere that the water's still coming out, even though this park I know is saturated with springs. So I've been looking for a drink for hours now, I've been thirsty. And I can't find a drink in a park that is full of springs. Okay, now this is interesting. Look at this. This is obviously fed by the spring water in the whole area. To most people this is just a pond, but to me it's so much more. You're looking at the map of Williamson Park here. I didn't realise that there was a reservoir behind the butterfly house. So that's really interesting because that's obviously where a lot of collection with the spring water's going. Thank you so much for watching this video. The purpose of this video was to simply show all of the architecture that we see, how it's all built around ancient spring systems. I mean, so many people go around these buildings, they look at the architecture itself, but they fail to see the purpose of water when it's involved with this architecture. So that's the main thing I wanted to show in this video, is that it doesn't matter if it's an abbey or it's a building with a copper dome. All of these structures, parks and ancient places had water as their #1 priority, and obviously they would have honoured it. It would have also had multi-functions, but it was so important. And my journey really in this life, and one of the biggest visions I have, is to obviously reintroduce these springs and come together with like-minded people that want that same vision. And this is what my vision obviously is for my social media, my Instagram and my YouTube, is to develop a community that has this focus as well, so that in time that we can bring this back. You know, when the collective consciousness is at a certain level again, that the waters will be flowing again, we can come together and rebuild these ancient structures and once again drink from the pure waters of Mother Earth with honour. And that's my #1 vision for why I do these videos.